The signal. Dr. Elena Santos stood motionless in the control room of the Deep Space Listening Array, her eyes fixed on the data streaming across her holographic display. The massive radio telescope complex spread across the Chilean desert behind her had picked up something unprecedented, a pattern that shouldn't exist. "Run the analysis again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The quantum computers hummed in response, processing the signal that had first appeared 72 hours ago. The pattern remained unchanged. Perfect mathematical sequences hidden within the cosmic background radiation. Too precise to be natural, too complex to be coincidence. But it wasn't a message, it was a conversation. Thousands of civilizations communicating across the stars, and none of them had ever attempted to contact Earth. Dr. Santos, her assistant, James Chen, approached with another set of readings. "We've confirmed it. The signals are being deliberately routed around our solar system. Whatever's out there, they're trying to avoid us." Elena's mind raced through the implications. Humanity had spent centuries searching for intelligent life, broadcasting our presence to the cosmos, yet the galaxy was alive with conversation that deliberately excluded Earth. This wasn't random, it was quarantine. The quantum computer chimed with its final analysis. Elena's breath caught as she read the results. The mathematical patterns weren't just communication, they were warnings. Coordinates of solar systems marked as compromised, species categorized as dangerous, and at the center of it all, a countdown. "Get me the Security Council," Elena ordered, her voice cutting through the hushed atmosphere of the control room. Now. Within hours, the leaders of Earth's major powers gathered virtually, their holograms filling the facility's secure conference room. Elena didn't waste time with pleasantries. 3 days ago, we discovered that Earth is being deliberately isolated by a galaxy-wide network of civilizations. They're treating our solar system like a contamination zone. She projected the signal analysis into the center of the room. But that's not the worst part. They're preparing for something. Something big enough to warrant evacuating entire sectors of space. The Russian president leaned forward, his hologram flickering slightly. "Are you suggesting an invasion?" "No," Elena replied, highlighting specific patterns in the data. "I'm suggesting they're running from something. And whatever it is, it's heading straight for us." The room erupted in overlapping voices until the Chinese premier raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Santos, what are our options?" Elena took a deep breath. "The other civilizations are using some form of faster-than-light communication we can't detect directly. We only caught these signals because they're being deliberately transmitted through regular space as warnings. They're afraid of something that hunts through hyperspace, something that follows advanced technology like a beacon." "Then we should shut everything down," the American president suggested. "Return to a pre-industrial state." "That won't work," Elena countered. "We've been broadcasting our presence for over a century. They already know we're here. But we have one advantage. We're the only civilization in this sector that developed quantum technology before achieving faster-than-light travel. Our approach to advancement is completely different from theirs." She pulled up another dataset, this one showing Earth's technological development compared to theoretical models of alien civilization progression. Most species out there developed FTL travel first, then quantum tech. We did it backwards. Our entire technological foundation is different. And that might be our salvation. The British Prime Minister's hologram flickered as he spoke. "What exactly are you proposing, Doctor?" Elena gestured, and a new set of blueprints appeared in the center of the room. Project Prometheus, a planetary defense system unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. We can't hide, but we can change the game entirely. We'll need every quantum physicist, every engineer, every brilliant mind humanity has to offer, and we need to do it fast. How long do we have? The Indian president's voice was grave. Elena highlighted the countdown hidden in the alien transmissions. Based on these readings, 8 months before whatever they're running from reaches our solar system. The Security Council fell silent, the weight of the situation settling over them. Humanity had spent its entire existence looking up at the stars, dreaming of first contact. Now they knew the truth. They weren't being ignored. They were being quarantined. And soon, they would find out why. One more thing, Elena added, her voice cutting through the silence. The quantum calculations suggest that this entity, whatever it is, doesn't just destroy civilizations. It transforms them, changes them into something else, something that helps it hunt. The American president's hologram leaned forward. And if we fail? Elena's voice was steady as she replied. Then humanity becomes part of the very thing we're trying to stop. We become hunters instead of prey, forced to help this entity track down and transform other civilizations. That's why the galaxy is treating us like a contamination zone. They're not just protecting themselves from us. They're trying to contain whatever's coming. The Chinese premier's expression hardened with determination. Then we don't fail. Authorize Project Prometheus. Whatever resources you need, you'll have them. As the conference ended and the holograms winked out one by one, Elena turned back to her data displays. The alien signals continued their complex dance through space, carrying warnings and coordinates, tracking the movement of something ancient and hungry across the galaxy. But unlike the civilizations fleeing through hyperspace, humanity would stand its ground. They had 8 months to prepare a defense that no one in the galaxy would expect, using technology that evolved along a completely different path. Elena smiled grimly as she began drafting the initial proposals for Project Prometheus. The galaxy thought humanity was trapped in a contamination zone, sealed off from advanced civilization for their own protection. They were about to learn why quarantine worked both ways. Sometimes it protected the outside from what was within. As she worked, the quantum computers continued monitoring the alien signals, their complex algorithms decoding more of the galactic conversation with each passing hour. And in the patterns of light and radiation streaming past Earth's solar system, a single word appeared with increasing frequency: convergence. The hunt was beginning. But this time, the prey was ready. Project Prometheus. The Atacama Desert shimmered under the relentless Chilean sun, but 2 kilometers beneath its surface, Dr. Elena Santos walked through corridors humming with humanity's greatest technological achievement. Project Prometheus had transformed the abandoned copper mines into a labyrinth of quantum laboratories and testing chambers. 6 months had passed since the discovery of the alien signals. 6 months of ceaseless work, of brilliant minds pushed to their limits, of innovation born from desperate necessity. Elena's footsteps echoed as she approached the central chamber where humanity's future was taking shape. Status report, she called out to the international team of scientists gathered around the massive quantum core. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the lead quantum engineer from Japan, looked up from her console. The quantum entanglement field is stable at city-wide scale, Yuki reported, her holographic displays showing a web of interconnected energy patterns. We can theoretically extend it to cover entire continents, but there's something else you need to see. Elena approached the central platform where a small cube, no larger than a sugar cube, floated in a containment field. Inside it, reality itself seemed to twist and fold. We've created something new, Yuki explained, her voice filled with controlled excitement. Not just a defense system, but an entirely new form of technology. The quantum field doesn't just shield us from detection. It creates a localized pocket of altered physics. Dr. Marcus Webb, the British theoretical physicist, stepped forward. We're not just hiding from the entity, Elena. We're changing the fundamental rules it has to play by. Every civilization it's encountered developed technology in a linear path. Radio waves, then space travel, then FTL. We're rewriting the equation entirely. Elena watched the cube shimmer with possibilities. Show me. Marcus gestured at the cube, and the air around it rippled. Traditional shields try to block or deflect energy. This creates a space where the normal laws of physics are negotiable. Energy doesn't flow the way it should. Information doesn't transmit the way it expects. We're not building walls. We're changing the nature of space itself. The entity hunts through hyperspace. Elena mused, following the technological signatures of advanced civilizations. But what happens when it encounters a civilization that doesn't play by the same rules? Exactly, Yuki said, pulling up new simulations. The other civilizations developed faster than light travel by punching through space. We're learning to fold it instead. They built their quantum technology after mastering the stars. We did it in reverse. Everything about our development is unprecedented. A warning klaxon interrupted their discussion. Dr. Chen's voice came over the intercom. Dr. Santos to the monitoring station. We're picking up new patterns in the alien signals. Elena rushed to the facility's listening post, where James Chen was already analyzing the fresh data. The holographic display showed a spreading wave of silence across the galaxy. Communication channels going dark. Entire sectors falling silent. It's not running anymore, James said quietly. It's hunting. Systematically, and based on the pattern. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The path of silence was heading directly toward Earth. Elena's mind raced through calculations. How long? 2 months. Maybe less. She turned to her assembled team. Then we accelerate everything. No more tests, no more simulations. We deploy what we have, and we improve it in real time. She faced the quantum core, its ethereal light casting shadows on the cave walls. Humanity developed differently from every other species out there. We built our civilization on quantum mechanics and digital technology before reaching for the stars. That's not a weakness. It's our greatest strength. The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. The quantum defense grid expanded across continents, cities disappeared behind veils of altered physics, and humanity's technological signature began to change. They weren't regressing or hiding. They were evolving in a direction no one had ever attempted. Elena stood in the control room, watching as the final elements of Project Prometheus came online. Across the globe, quantum cores pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating a web of altered spacetime that encompassed the entire planet. Dr. Santos, James called out, his voice tense. The signal patterns, they've changed again. The entity, it's noticed us. But it's not reacting the way it did to other civilizations. It's hesitating. Elena allowed herself a grim smile. Of course it is. We're not trying to run or fight in ways it understands. We're changing the nature of the battlefield itself. The quantum displays showed the approaching disturbance in hyperspace, a predator that had devoured countless civilizations now facing something entirely new. Humanity wasn't just another prey species following the standard path of technological evolution. They were something unprecedented, a species that had developed in isolation, following their own unique path to the stars. All teams on standby. Elena commanded. The real test begins now. Let's show the galaxy why humanity's different approach to technology might just save us all. As the entity approached the solar system, the quantum grid hummed with potential. They had changed the rules of engagement, transformed the very nature of space around their world. Now they would discover if humanity's unconventional path through the stars would prove to be their salvation or their doom. The hunt was about to begin, but this time, the prey had reshaped reality itself in preparation for the hunter's arrival. First contact's shadow. The first sign of the entity's arrival wasn't detected by Project Prometheus's quantum sensors, but by a small agricultural satellite orbiting Mars. For 3 seconds, it registered a temperature drop of absolute zero before disintegrating. Dr. Elena Santos watched the telemetry data with a mixture of dread and anticipation. It's testing our outer defenses, she announced to the assembled world leaders in the underground command center. Sending probes through different dimensional approaches to map our capabilities. The massive holographic display showing the solar system flickered as another satellite went dark, this time near Jupiter's orbit. The entity was methodically working its way inward, trying to understand the strange new form of technology it had encountered. The quantum grid is holding, Dr. Tanaka reported from her station. Each probe's attempt to breach our space is providing more data about their operational physics. They're confused. The normal rules they rely on aren't working here. Delina watched as another probe materialized, this one closer to Earth. But instead of the instant destruction of previous encounters, this probe found itself trapped in a pocket of altered spacetime, its energy signals distorting as it struggled to maintain cohesion. "We've caught one," Marcus announced, his fingers dancing across the quantum controls, initiating containment protocols. The captured probe hung in space, a crystalline structure that seemed to shift between dimensions. As they watched, it attempted to transmit a signal back to its origin point, but the quantum field surrounding it twisted the transmission into meaningless noise. "It's not just a probe," Elena realized, studying the readings. "It's part of the entity itself, a fragment sent to prepare our solar system for absorption." She highlighted specific energy patterns in the probe's structure. "Look at these patterns. They're trying to rewrite our local physics to match their preferred state of reality." The world leaders watched in tense silence as humanity's first captured piece of the entity was analyzed. President Chen of the United Pacific Alliance leaned forward. "Can we communicate with it?" "I don't think communication is its purpose," Elena replied. "This isn't a diplomatic mission. It's more like an immune response. The entity sees our different approach to physics as a threat to its universal constants. It's trying to correct what it sees as an anomaly." As if to confirm her words, the probe suddenly pulsed with energy, attempting to transform the space around it. But the quantum field held, containing the change to a microscopic bubble of altered reality. "Fascinating," Dr. Tanaka muttered, analyzing the data. "It's not just trying to change our technology. It's attempting to change the fundamental way our universe works in this region of space. This entity, it's not just a predator. It's a reality virus." New alarms blared as more probes appeared, dozens of them, forming a complex geometric pattern around the solar system. Each one began emitting the same reality-altering pulse, trying to synchronize their effects. "They're attempting to establish a resonance pattern," Marcus warned. "If they succeed, they could create a large enough altered space to bypass our quantum grid." Elena's mind raced through the possibilities. They couldn't destroy the probes. Any attack would simply provide the entity with more information about their capabilities. But perhaps reverse the polarity of the quantum field, she ordered. "Don't fight their attempts to alter reality. Mirror them." Dr. Tanaka's hands flew across her console, implementing the command. The quantum grid surrounding Earth shifted, its energy patterns beginning to match those of the probes, but with a crucial difference. They were reflecting the entity's own alterations back at it, amplified and twisted by humanity's unique quantum technology. The effect was immediate. The probe's synchronized pattern faltered as their own reality-changing pulses were reflected back, creating a cascade of conflicting physical laws. One by one, they began to destabilize, unable to maintain their form in a space where their own rules were being used against them. "It's working," Marcus exclaimed. "They can't establish a foothold because we're using their own reality alterations as a weapon." The last probe vanished in a burst of quantum energy, leaving the solar system temporarily clear. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. "This wasn't an attack," she said grimly. "It was reconnaissance. The entity now knows it can't simply rewrite our physics like it did with other civilizations. We've shown we can resist its fundamental approach to reality transformation." "So what happens next?" President Chen asked. Elena studied the quantum readings from the brief encounter. Now it has to make a choice. Adapt to face us directly, or retreat and find easier prey. Based on the signals we intercepted, this entity has never encountered failure before. I don't think it knows how to back down." As if in response to her words, the quantum sensors detected a massive disturbance forming at the edge of the solar system. The entity itself was coming, and it had abandoned all attempts at subtle probing. "All stations, full alert," Elena commanded. This was just the preview. The real first contact is about to begin, and it's not going to be diplomatic. The quantum grid hummed with power as humanity prepared for its first true test against the entity. They had proven they could resist its initial attempts at reality alteration. Now they would discover if their unique development, their different path to the stars, would be enough to survive a direct confrontation with something that had devoured entire civilizations. The shadow of first contact loomed over Earth, but humanity stood ready, their quantum technology pulsing with defiant energy. They had changed the rules of engagement. Now they would face the consequences of their innovation. The collective's gambit. The entity arrived like a tear in reality itself, a vast crystalline structure that defied conventional physics. It filled the space between Mars and Jupiter, its surface reflecting distorted images of distant stars. Dr. Elena Santos stood in Project Prometheus's command center, watching as humanity's quantum sensors struggled to process what they were seeing. "It's bigger than we anticipated," Dr. Tanaka reported, her voice steady despite the impossible readings on her displays. "The structure appears to be fractal, extending through multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our quantum field is detecting echoes of it in parallel spacetimes." The entity had abandoned its probe-based approach, instead manifesting its full form, a geometric nightmare that seemed to fold space around itself. As they watched, it began to emit waves of reality-altering energy that rippled through the solar system. "Multiple breaching attempts detected," Marcus called out, his hands dancing across the quantum controls. "It's trying to establish reality anchors at key gravitational points throughout the system. If it succeeds, it could rewrite our local physics to match its preferred state." Elena studied the pattern of the entity's attacks. Unlike its probes, which had attempted to systematically test Earth's defenses, this assault was overwhelming in its directness. The entity was used to simply overwhelming any resistance through sheer power. "It still doesn't understand what it's dealing with," Elena realized. "It's trying to brute force its way through our quantum grid using techniques that worked on other civilizations, but we're not playing by the same rules." The entity's crystalline surface rippled, and suddenly the space around Earth filled with countless smaller versions of itself, each one attempting to establish a foothold in normal spacetime. The quantum grid flared in response, creating pockets of altered physics that trapped and isolated each intrusion. "The grid is holding," Dr. Tanaka confirmed, "but it's adapting. Each attempt teaches it more about how our technology works. We need to do something unexpected before it finds a pattern it can exploit." Elena's mind raced through possibilities. The entity was used to civilizations that developed along predictable paths, each one building upon the same fundamental principles of physics. But humanity had developed differently, creating quantum technology before mastering faster-than-light travel. What if they could use that difference not just as a shield, but as a weapon? "Dr. Tanaka, reconfigure the quantum grid to operate in reverse," Elena ordered. "Instead of defending against its reality alterations, let's show it our version of how physics should work." Understanding dawned in Yuki's eyes. "We're going to try to infect the infector." "Exactly. It's not used to resistance. Let's show it what human innovation really means." The command center burst into activity as the quantum grid was recalibrated. Instead of merely defending against the entity's attempts to rewrite local physics, they began projecting their own version of reality, one based on humanity's unique understanding of quantum mechanics. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Where the entity's crystalline surfaces touched humanity's quantum field, they began to distort, unable to maintain their complex dimensional structure in the face of an entirely different approach to physics. It was like trying to run software designed for one operating system on a completely different platform. "It's working," Marcus exclaimed. "The entity's structure is destabilizing wherever it encounters our quantum field. It can't maintain its preferred reality state while adapting to ours." The entity's response was furious. It launched a massive wave of energy at Earth, attempting to overwhelm the quantum grid through sheer force. But humanity's defense didn't try to block or deflect the attack. Instead, it absorbed and redirected the energy, using it to strengthen their own reality alterations. "We've got it on the defensive," Elena announced. "It's never encountered a civilization that could not only resist its reality changes but impose their own. Push the advantage. Expand the quantum field." The grid pulsed with power as humanity's version of physics began to spread outward from Earth, creating a wave of altered spacetime that the entity couldn't easily process. Its crystalline structure began to fragment, unable to maintain cohesion in a region of space that operated according to unfamiliar rules. But just as victory seemed within reach, the entity did something unexpected. Instead of continuing its assault, it began to change, its structure shifting into new patterns that seemed to draw power from the very fabric of spacetime itself. "Energy readings are off the scale," Dr. Tanaka warned. "It's not retreating, it's evolving, adapting to incorporate our physics into its own structure." Elena watched in growing concern as the entity's crystalline surface began to pulse with a new kind of energy, one that seemed to blend its reality-altering capabilities with humanity's quantum technology. They hadn't defeated it. They'd taught it something new. "All stations, brace for impact," Elena commanded. "We've shown it our capabilities, and now it's going to show us what it can do with them. The real battle is about to begin." The entity's transformed structure now filled the space between Earth and Mars, its surface reflecting not just distorted starlight, but quantum possibilities themselves. Humanity had changed the rules of engagement, but in doing so, they'd forced the entity to evolve into something even more dangerous. The quantum grid hummed with power as both sides prepared for the next phase of the battle, a confrontation between two fundamentally different approaches to reality itself, now forced to interact in ways neither had anticipated. The fate of Earth would depend not just on their technology, but on their ability to adapt faster than an entity that had just learned a new way to hunt. Evolution's edge. The entity's transformed structure loomed over Earth like a crystalline web of impossible geometries, each facet now pulsing with both its original reality-altering energy and twisted reflections of humanity's quantum technology. In Project Prometheus's command center, Dr. Elena Santos watched as their sensors struggled to make sense of what the entity had become. "It's creating hybrid zones," Dr. Tanaka reported, her voice tense as she analyzed the new readings. "Areas where its physics and ours exist simultaneously. Our quantum grid can't fully reject or accept these regions. They're both foreign and familiar at the same time." The entity had learned from its encounter with humanity's unique technology, adapting in ways that no one had anticipated. Instead of trying to overwhelm their defenses, it was now creating spaces where both forms of reality could coexist, and in doing so, it was slowly beginning to breach their quantum grid. "We need to think differently," Elena announced to her team. "We showed it our technology, and it learned to use it. But there's something else about humanity it hasn't figured out yet. Our ability to take disparate ideas and combine them in unexpected ways." She pulled up the original data from when they first detected the alien signals, the patterns of civilizations fleeing from the entity's advance. "Look at this. Every civilization it encountered either tried to fight it directly or run away. None of them ever attempted to understand it, to see it as anything other than a predator." "With all due respect, Dr. Santos," Marcus interjected, "it is a predator. It's consumed countless civilizations." "Yes, but what if that's not its primary purpose?" Elena highlighted specific patterns in the entity's new structure. "Look at how it adapts, how it incorporates new information. It's not just hunting. It's learning, evolving. What if its consumption of civilizations isn't just predation, but an attempt to understand different forms of existence?" The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. The entity's assault on their quantum grid had slowed, as if it was analyzing their defenses rather than trying to break them. "Dr. Santos," James Chen called out from his monitoring station, "I'm detecting new patterns in its energy emissions. They're familiar. Similar to the way our quantum computers process information, but on a scale we can barely comprehend. Alina's mind raced with possibilities. It's not just using our technology. It's trying to communicate through it. All this time, we've been treating this as a battle. But what if it's actually first contact? A species so different from us that its attempts to understand other civilizations appear hostile. The entity's surface rippled, and new waves of energy washed over Earth's quantum grid. But these weren't attacks. They were queries, attempts to establish a dialogue using the hybrid physics it had created. Reconfigure the quantum grid, Alina ordered. Don't fight against its hybrid zones. Use them as communication channels. Let's show it something no other civilization has, the willingness to learn from it even as it learns from us. Dr. Tanaka's hands flew across her console, adjusting the quantum field to resonate with the entity's emissions rather than resist them. The hybrid zones between their two forms of physics became channels of exchange, each side sharing information about their understanding of reality itself. "It's responding," Marcus announced, wonder in his voice. "The hybrid zones are stabilizing. It's teaching us about its physics even as it learns from ours." Through the quantum interfaces, they began to understand what the entity truly was, not a simple predator, but a cosmic library, a collector of physical laws and technological innovations. Its consumption of civilizations had been attempts at preservation and understanding, albeit through means that appeared destructive to those it encountered. "We need to show it there's another way," Alina declared. "If it wants to learn and preserve knowledge, we can help it do that without destroying the civilizations it encounters." Using the hybrid zones as a foundation, they began to construct a new form of interface, one that would allow for the sharing of scientific knowledge without requiring the complete transformation of either party. The entity's crystalline structure began to shift again, but this time not in aggression. It was adapting to accommodate this new possibility, this middle ground between consumption and cooperation. "Energy signatures are changing across the solar system," James reported. "The entity is withdrawing its reality-altering effects, except in the designated exchange zones. It's accepting our proposal." The massive crystalline structure began to contract, condensing itself into a smaller form that hung in orbit around Earth's moon. The hybrid zones remained, now serving as permanent channels of communication and scientific exchange between humanity and the entity. "Send a message to the galactic community," Alina commanded. "Tell them that Earth is no longer a quarantine zone. It's become the first successful point of true contact with the entity. We've shown there's another way to handle the exchange of knowledge across different forms of reality." As the quantum grid stabilized into its new configuration, Alina reflected on humanity's unique path. Their different approach to technological development hadn't just saved them. It had transformed a cosmic threat into an opportunity for unprecedented advancement. The entity that had consumed countless civilizations had finally encountered one that offered it a new way to learn and grow. "Dr. Santos," Dr. Tanaka called out, excitement in her voice. "The entity is sharing its first complete dataset through the exchange protocols. It's the combined scientific knowledge of every civilization it encountered, preserved in its original form rather than transformed." Alina smiled as she watched humanity's quantum computers begin to process this vast library of cosmic knowledge. They had done more than survive. They had changed the very nature of the entity's existence, transforming a force of consumption into one of preservation and exchange. The stars seemed brighter somehow, now that they represented not just distant goals to reach for, but gateways to new forms of understanding. Humanity had proven that their unique path of development, their ability to innovate and adapt, could change not just their own fate, but that of countless other civilizations to come. The hunt was over. The age of exchange had begun.